Hey, what's up, Internet? I'm Dan Casey, and welcome to today's episode of Nerdist News Talks Back. It's our weekly over-the-top talk show about all things pop culture, and thank you so much for joining us. Now, on today's show, we have a doozy for you because Tim Burton is at it again, and this time he's moving in with the Addams family. Plus, the Power Rangers are also getting rebooted. Again, I know I feel the exact same way as you do. And from there, we'll talk about everything from the Mandalorian Season 2 to what exactly is going on with Zack Snyder's Justice League and Oscar Isaac possibly joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe as Moon Knight. All of that plus some Halloween trivia on today's Nerdist News Talks Back. But before we get to all of that, let's meet today's amazing panel. So first of all, she's a writer and critic for Slash Film, the host of the Millennial Falcon podcast and the Trekking Through Time and Space podcast. It's Hoai-Tran Bui.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
I am so stoked to have you on today. We're going to have fun. Now, next up, she's the host of the Something Scary podcast. You've seen her everywhere from Hunter's Entertainment to Collider Video to DC Daily to right here on Nerdist doing all sorts of amazing interviews. It's Markeia McCarty.
Hey, Dan. Hey, everyone. Excited to talk about our stuff today.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun episode. We're going to get into it. Now, last but not least, she is a writer extraordinaire for outlets like IGN, Esquire, and Nerdist, and her graphic novel, The Haunted High Tops, is available now. It's Rosie Knight.
Hey, thank you so much for having me back. I'm so stoked to be here. This is such a rad panel. And yeah, Haunted High Tops, art by Fran Bueno, amazing artist. So yeah, always going to shout.
Yeah, I have to say, I love the cover image alone, like super chilling stuff.
It's getting to write a kid's horror comic is like my dream because I grew up with Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark and all that kind of stuff. So that was really cool.
Yeah, got to scar a new generation of readers.
The dream.
All right, folks, let's get this show on the road. So it's time for our weekly segment that we here at Nerdist like to call, Should You Still Be Wearing a Mask in Public This Week? Well, let me think about it real quick. Yes. The answer is going to be yes until there's a vaccine, and then probably for quite some time after that too. But anyway, don't be a fool. Wear a mask. Be responsible. Anyway, moving right along. So speaking of horror, this is the most intentionally spooky day of the year, Halloween, is coming up later this week, this coming Saturday. And while this year has kind of felt like a nonstop horror movie in many aspects, I imagine that many of us right now are turning to horror movies, TV shows, anime, etc. for a thrilling, chilling escape this spooky season. So for our viewers out there, and more specifically for me, I'd like to know from the panel, what's your favorite underrated or underseen, underappreciated horror story that you love sharing with others? So, Hoai-Tran, let's start with you.
I wonder if this is a cheat because I wonder if Hannibal is considered underrated. I adore Hannibal, and I am actually more of a newcomer to the horror genre. I was scared stiff of a lot of horror movies and TV shows up until pretty recently, but Hannibal I got straight into right away, even before I was an admitted fan of horror. And I just love Brian Fuller's gothic Baroque vision of Hannibal the Cannibal. Mads Mikkelsen is amazing in the role. And every episode of that show just disturbed me profoundly and unsettled me. And it was a show that I think I binged for a little bit and had to pause because it was just almost too much. But it's a show that like just got under my skin and settled in my brain. And I remember and love very deeply.
I would say that is a perfect choice because A, you can watch it all right now on Netflix. It is super unsettling. Some of the best food photography, including all of those cooking shows as well. And yeah, it's just like great performances, some really like deeply like messed up cases and murders in there. And it's something that, gets under your skin in all the best ways. And Rosie, you actually got to host the reunion panel for us earlier this year.
I did. It was so amazing. And I love Hannibal so much. That's the perfect pick because also it got canceled. Loads of people didn't see it. It came out like 8 years ago or something. So it's really, I think that's a perfect suggestion because for a lot of people who haven't seen it, it's now accessible. I think it's about to go on Hulu, which means it will be on Amazon, Netflix, and Hulu. So any of those services. Also, yeah, Janice Poon, absolute just queen of food photography. And that, every time I watch that show, it blows my mind that it was on broadcast TV. Like NBC allowed that show to be on it. And it has one of my favorite American censorship stories, which is like, there's an episode where the killer like does these really brutal killings. Let's not spoil it. But there's two people on their knees And NBC was like, oh, I'm not sure we'll be able to put this on. And Brian was like, yeah, I thought I pushed it a bit too far. And he was like, you can see their butt cracks, so just pour more blood. And that was like, he just had to cover the butt cracks with blood. But the actual fact that there was just this absolutely nightmarish, like R-rated murder wasn't an issue. And I just love that so much.
The imagery got so insanely grotesque. Like there's that one case where they had like the Mexican necktie, I think that was called.
Oh yeah.
I was shocked. I think I watched that one live and I was like, how did this end up on TV? But is this a bad thing to admit that every time I watched Hannibal, I got a little hungry afterwards?
No, I felt the same way.
I was just about to say, like, thanks to Hannibal and iZombie, it's like, oh, maybe eating people is okay.
Yeah. It might be delectable. Like, who knows? If you just use the right seasonings or pair it with the right wine, it could really be like very special.
Yeah, just put a little of that Trader Joe's everything bagel seasoning on there, and you're off to the races.
Hot sauce to match the red, you know.
Makes everything better. But Rosie, same question to you. What's your pick for an underrated or underappreciated horror story you'd like to share with others?
I've been really going back to like, I always have this great idea. I'm going to make a list of all these cool movies I've seen, and then I just watch the same like 5 things every Halloween. But my real 100% like you should go and watch it right now is Blood Quantum, which is just the most amazing indigenous zombie movie from Canada, and it's just super cool and subversive and really raw and just one of the best horror movies I've seen in years. And my other option of like you should watch something bad that I like is Hellraiser 4, which is called Hellraiser Bloodline. I'm a big fan of every Hellraiser movie, and even the really, really bad ones, but Bloodline is actually one of my favorites because it's basically about the history of the Lament Box, but it's 2 movies that they basically smushed together. So it starts in space and it's also set like in the French Revolution. So it's the historical epic entry into the horror franchise and the space entry. And it has Adam Scott as like a sexy French Revolution masochist. So it's just amazing. And I 10 out of 10 would recommend watching that movie. It's so good. And actually a lot of people, I hadn't really revisited it until I ranked all the Hellraiser movies for Nerdist. And it was like kind of in the middle for me then, because I was thinking I love Clive Barker, so the original is like very high to me. But my friend messaged me on Twitter and was like, Bloodline should have been higher. And I was like, maybe I'll rewatch it. And I rewatched it and I was like, this is so this is so good. Like, this is really, really good. And I love it. Hellraiser 3, also good. It's a nightclub movie, which is one of my favorite things. Any horror movie with a rave or a nightclub's always very entertaining. So yeah, late stage Hellraiser.
Yeah, I have to say on that nightclub note, I will be forever scarred when I saw Blade way too young in the blood rave scene. And I was just like, I had to leave the theater and come back in. I was just like very susceptible to vampire imagery at that age. So I'll have to revisit that then.
I worked Halloween Horror Nights and they had like a Blade room, and we literally had like the whole blood thing. Like,
that's so cool.
Like it was the area where people didn't walk, but it's like blood on the walls and we're like rave wear.
Oh my God. I like the idea that there's a hidden rave section of Halloween Horror Nights out there somewhere as well. But Markeia, what would your pick be for this?
I am a huge horror person. Like, it's ridiculous. So the one that I say to people, because it's surprising how many people don't know about this, Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight is like so underrated. It's everything that you would want. If you like jump scares, you got jump scares. If you're more of an Evil Dead, Army of Darkness kind of person, they got you. If you like your just like grotesque, like, oh my God, why are they? Oh, I feel like it's on my skin. If you're that kind of person, Demon Knight has got you. If you're a person that likes to have social commentary along with your horror, like kind of like how Jordan Peele does with Get Out and the such, then they have you. Jada Pinkett, before she was a Smith, is the lead in this. You have Billy Zane as the antagonist, and he is, believe me when I say it, is him at his Billy Zaniest. Like, he is having all of the fun with this. I mean, you watch him in this, and you're just like, oh, I just want to lick my fingers and give him a chef's kiss, because that's how much fun he's having in this. You have CCH Pounder in it.
Oh,
and then plus Dick Miller. I mean, I steadfastly believe that there's a Dick Miller universe, and like this sits right into the Gremlins section of it, with him playing Uncle Willie in Tales from the Crypt. I'm sorry, Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight, and it's such a good premise that there have been other movies that have copied it and are not able to deliver it in the same way. I'm getting heated right now. I cannot even like say enough. Just like rent it, buy it, watch it, and you'll see what I mean.
It's actually, if you have AMC at the moment and you have any kind of cable package or AMC Plus, it's on there. They have that and Bordello of Blood. I was watching Bordello of Blood just before I started, which are like the two spin-off. Yeah, but Jada Pinkett, one of the few as well. That's one of the few like black-led final girl kind of things you can make an argument with. Sana in AVP. I mean, yeah.
This needs a sequel. That's what it needs.
Now that Shudder is doing like creep show stuff, you know, they could definitely, I feel like, bring that. That might even, they might even have both of those on there. But yeah, that definitely bring Jada back as well. Everyone's loving like a nostalgic type vibe of somebody recoming and doing a great thing. That's such a great pick.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, everyone I've talked to that has watched Demon Knight is an ardent fan of it. There's no like casual Demon Knight fandom. They're like, you have to watch this movie. I was supposed to go to a screening with a friend of mine earlier this year. They were showing it on the big screen somewhere. But then, 2020 happened. So now I'll have to watch it at home instead. So thank you for refloating that to the top of my mental Netflix queue. So I'll definitely add that to my list. But for my recommendation, I would go with, it's more of a psychological thriller, and it's by one of the all-time great anime directors, Satoshi Kon. It's called Perfect Blue. And it is a fascinating look at identity, celebrity, and fandom in a very creepy, unsettling way. Highly recommend you check it out. It just got remastered, I think, in a year or two ago. It's a pretty short movie too, so I don't think you'll regret it. But let's move away from horror recommendations to something that I don't know if anyone asked for, but is happening anyway, because they're creepy, they're kooky, they're mysterious and spooky, and they're ready for a rebooty. I'm so sorry about this. They're the Addams Family. Yes, I do regret saying that, but here we are. Last week, news broke that Tim Burton is looking to reboot the Addams Family with a brand new live action series. So my first question is, why? And my second question is, what would you want to see from Tim Burton's Addams Family? So Markeia, let's start with you on this one.
Okay. So why? Money. Yeah. What I would want to see, I mean, if we're going to have this thing, then I would not want it to all be from the perspective of Wednesday Addams. I know that it has definitely leaned in that direction, and I believe I was even reading some things today about it where it's just like, oh, it's going to be Wednesday Addams in today's world and everything. Yes, we love Wednesday Addams. We love her, but it's the entire family. And I mean, keeping in mind, we've done a very heavy Wednesday Addams focus when it comes to movies, when it comes to just TV properties in general. And then, of course, that brings to mind, I'm sure everybody here has seen it, Melissa Hunter's Adult Wednesday Addams series that she did online. If you haven't seen it, watch it. I mean, that's like sweet spot Adult Wednesday Addams. So what I would want is I want to focus more on the family within the world again, because that's the thing. That's the embracing their differences and then seeing that out in the world. It doesn't all have to be from Wednesday's, point of view or so much focus on her. I mean, because come on. I mean, Morticia and Gomez, like horny on Maine 24/7. I want to I love that chemistry.
We need that.
It's more than Wednesday. And if they really want to get into it, let's see some more of the extended family. Let's see some cousin It, in there. I mean, and who's going to play cousin Jim Carrey? Maybe Jim Carrey. I think he'd love that.
Yeah, I like that as well, like making the focus on the wider family and not just having Wednesday be our POV character, because we get so much of her POV from already existing Addams family, whether it's the animated series or the movies. I'd love to see almost like a Goldberg style framing device from the Thing's perspective, where it has voiceover and just frames each episode. Just that like weird, creepy, crawly hand, because I don't think the Thing gets enough play. But I'm
You know, it'd be
curious.
a really good thing with that. If y'all remember Enray, the cat, where it was just like
Ollie the cats, yeah.
Andre the cat. Have something like that for for a Thing.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Just have him ride it like a little skeletal cat mount. But I'm curious, what do you make of the Tim Burton of it all? How do you think that a filmmaker and creative like that can enhance or add his own flair to something like the Addams Family? So, Hoai-Tran, let's start with you.
So I kind of sighed a little bit when I heard the news that Tim Burton was doing an Addams Family series, because it's just so expected, you know? And I feel like Tim Burton has been creatively stunted for the past decade, even more. And I wish that he would do something that is something more out of his comfort zone. And Addams Family just feels so in that comfort zone. And like Markeia was saying, it's money, and it's easy money for him. He just kind of can do this in his sleep at this point. And I want to see something that's more than just him sleepwalking. I want to see him try something different, try something new, not do like the same kabuki mask type of Gothic storytelling that he's been doing for the past decades, 2 decades. So I just wish that I want him to do something more interesting, maybe more funny, comedic. I know he's always excelled at the fairy tale stuff. And while I'm a big sucker for fairy tale stuff, I wonder, like, I don't know if he could, if him doing that would like bring anything new to the Addams Family. So I just want to see him do something new, maybe doing something even funny and light, and not what we expect.
Yeah, I think it felt a little on the nose. It felt like an AI was just like, well, this makes sense. This is something he would do. And then just like a neural net just like plopped out that Deadline story. But I'm curious, is there a property you think could actually benefit from a Tim Burton adaptation? Rosie?
I do. I just want to quickly as well, just quickly, because it's still on the Tim Burton bill. I mean, this is a guy who said that like people of color don't fit his aesthetic. So to me, I'm just like, why are you like, what does that even mean? And especially when like Oscar Isaac and Ruth Negga are like the dream Gomez and Morticia, if you're going to do something new.
That would be so good.
Yes.
Everything you guys said, I think is totally true. Ironically, I think if Tim Burton has had some personal growth, has some good people around him, is willing to change the idea of what the Addams Family is, even though everyone knows Gomez is Latinx. I think him going back to what he's written, like an Ed Wood style, like full black and white, really committed to the bit Addams Family, could be amazing. Because actually, I don't like the CG stuff. I agree with Hoido's like, I would like, what if he did something like, not that we need it, but like a I Love Lucy style or Bewitched, or something that's like he can take that campy joy and that he loves and kind of put that twist on it. Because I feel like ever since he really left the deep goth aesthetic, like the Batman Returns kind of stuff, he's, you know, Alice in Wonderland, all that high CG, it doesn't really work. So something, maybe trying to change the tone, like doing something that's funny. And because Alice in Wonderland was another thing where for years people were like, that would be the perfect Tim Burton project. And it happened, and it was like, was it though? Same with Dark Shadows, you know? So it being kind of so expected, I think could be the problem. And could be like mean that there's something kind of lacking there. And I think that as the weirdest thing is, in a prestige TV landscape, I was just thinking of, did any of you guys watch Alias Grace? It's like this super amazing, okay, it's so amazing. It's well, I thought it was really great. It's on Netflix. It's a Margaret Atwood story adapted, and it's about a woman who is a murderess, maybe. And it's just about her kind of life in prison and trying to get out of prison in like ye old days. But it's all directed and written by Sarah Polley, which you would just never expect, right? And that's the kind of thing, like Tim Burton could be doing all these kind of weird prestige shows and just doing like Karen Kusama, just going and directing an episode here or an episode there and feeling out his feeling for TV, rather than anytime something being announced, it's like this, oh, it's going to be his show, his aesthetic. It's like, just go and make some good TV if you want to do that. Like there's so much space for directors to take on new, weird, exciting projects. And it doesn't always have to be about them first. It can be about like the storytelling and the show first. So yeah, it's a lot. I sighed very heavily when I heard it because I even loved I liked the new Addams Family. It wasn't as good, that the animated film, it wasn't as good as the classic stuff, but like Markeia said, it's completely from Wednesday's point of view. It's all about Wednesday fitting into this wider world. So it sounds like they're just retreading what they did like a year ago, which seems kind of wild to me too.
Yeah, I think they're hoping that we'll all think that 2020 was this weird fugue state and not remember anything that happened before or after. Which, I mean, to be fair, they're not that far off. But yeah, I would like to see them change things up a little bit, not just give us more of the same, but with more stylized cobwebs and eventual Bone Daddy merchandise like they sell for Nightmare Before Christmas. In the chat, we have Lok Desad 6 saying, I'll never be able to shake Raul Julia as Gomez Addams. As for Tim Burton's vision, Danny DeVito as Cousin It.
Okay, all right.
Danny DeVito, I'll take it. Danny DeVito, I'll accept it.
Yeah,
you should be the casting director.
That's real good.
Or hear me out, use CG, Danny DeVito as Lurch, or just the like Hobbit style perspective camera. Just force it and just make him seem incredibly tall. Subvert our expectations.
I love the giant DeVito powering around the house.
Or just have short Lurch. That's the
giant DeVito sounds like a creepypasta.
Giant DeVito definitely sounds like a creepypasta.
Like something that you just see in the woods somewhere.
I was watching an episode and I
Slender
saw
Man
him.
Danny DeVito
standing at my window. Anyway, let's leave this reboot behind and talk about a different reboot because, folks, Morphin Time is a flat circle because the Power Rangers are once again getting rebooted. Last week, the Hollywood Reporter reported that the I'm Not Okay With This creator, Jonathan Entwistle, is shepherding a new series of TV and movie adaptations for everyone's favorite Super Sentai squad. Now, this is coming just 3 years after the 2017 reboot, and it's supposedly going to be part of a connected story universe that across multiple platforms. So I'm curious how, I mean, I don't know why they can't stop rebooting Power Rangers, because I understand like there's a new Power Rangers series almost every year, but those are part of a kind of like broader continuity because you're incorporating all the Super Sentai footage from Toei and the original stuff. And it has like a loose, like they all feel part of the same universe. But with this, it sounds like they're really starting from scratch. So is the shared cinematic universe model still viable if you're not something like a Marvel or a DC? Rosie, let's start with you on this one because I see you shaking your head.
I'm mad about the whole thing. I love original Super Sentai. I'm a fan of Power Rangers, even though I do think this all goes back to this problem that Saban had for a long time, and I think Hasbro has too now, where they basically denied any connection to Super Sentai. I watched like a 20th anniversary thing made by some geek website, and it was a big deal, like a documentary. They never mentioned Super Sentai once. They never mentioned Toei once. They basically talked about it as if the people in the show were doing the stunts. And I was just like, what is going on? Like, what is this fake mythos you're building? The main reason that, you know, the cinematic universe tie-in model, it can work, but I don't think it's the most powerful thing. Look at the stuff that DC's been doing that people like the most, you know, Aquaman, that's just completely random, campy magic. Like Joker, I hated it, but people really liked it, and it has nothing to do with anything. You know, I loved the 2017 Power Ranger movie, even though it was not to do with Toei, and I think that was the biggest problem, was no action. But they were such lovely children, and I love them all so much. They were such sweet, good kids, and the characters were really good, and the writing was good, and they played the Power Rangers theme, and I thought it was on the way to doing something good. But I think it's a toy thing. It's weird because I don't think toys sell that much, and they still sell a lot of toys from the Power Rangers series. But it must be something like that, because I don't get it. I don't get why, if the last one didn't work, wait a while. And if the last one didn't work and it's not to do with Toei, get Toei back involved. Like, people want to see those crazy acrobatics, or cast stunt people, you know, like
they did with the original Mighty Morphin.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that. Sorry, go ahead.
We all have so many Power Rangers thoughts.
Yeah, no. I'm just like piggybacking off of what Rosie said, and the only reason I can think of, like, they're you know, like all this cutting ties, all this rebooting, is that it feels like it's money reasons. I mean, it feels like it's like, okay, we're going to rebuild with this. So then we only have to pay people up to this point for utilizing everything.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, don't do that. That makes things bad. It's like, oh, you're already building off of the name for it. So just like go ahead and you're standing on the shoulders of giants without giving the giants their due, type of a deal. And it's like, just please just share. Please just share that wealth. You're tapping into this fan base that, you know, it's been decades of time being built up to this point. So just like respect that and embrace it.
Yeah, and I think that we've seen enough like dead cinematic universes at this point that it's been proven that this model of going cinematic universe first doesn't work. RIP Dark Universe. So it's
the Dark Universe.
Yes, it just seems like a failed strategy from the start, and something that is so financially motivated that it's going to turn off any fans who are dedicated to the franchise, because they know that it's just a cash grab and a soulless one at that.
Yeah, and if you look at, there's a report from a website called The Illuminati, which great name, and the report said that Hasbro is looking to end their relationship potentially with Toei, the Japanese studio that produced the original Super Sentai show and the footage that's been used in every US Power Rangers series for nearly 3 decades now. Now, obviously that could mean like major changes for the franchise moving forward, especially if that means they have to make their own source material, but I do think that is going to be a huge divide in like what we can expect from Power Rangers past and Power Rangers future. Now, I saw someone in the chat, I believe it was Megalo Blazemon, who says he's absolutely hyped, especially if it's tonally similar to the comics. Now, the Boom Studios comics have been doing some really fascinating stuff, but they're still relying on that old canon. So I'm curious. I feel like they're probably going to go back to the Mighty Morphin Well and like sort of resurrect these characters that were such a touchstone for so many people. But I think that you diminish its effectiveness. It's like with Spider-Man. People were exhausted by the time we got to Tom Holland. And if Tom Holland hadn't nailed it, then I think people would just be burnt out on Spidey. Like, I love Spider-Man, but even I was rolling my eyes when Sony and Marvel were like, guess what? Someone else's uncle died and now he's a Spider-Man. It's the same thing with like, guess what? These 5 teens from Angel Grove have, they found a guy in a tube and now they have cool suits. Like, you have to like establish some continuity. You have to respect the fan base because they are super passionate. I've been fortunate enough, I got to moderate some panels at Morphicon and stuff like that in the past. And everyone I've talked to, they're awesome. They're super passionate about this. They're super passionate about tokusatsu, about Super Sentai stuff. They care about this and they just want to see something that's good. So, you know, I don't want to knock the intent of the creatives involved because I'm sure they are trying to put their best foot forward, but it's hard not to feel cynical in the face of so many reboots in such a short amount of time. And also, if that report proves to be true, I'm a little worried about what that means for the future of Power Rangers. Maybe it's what they need to succeed in the modern era, but I question it from a fan perspective. So
I think like the whole thing of like who they've chosen to do it. Like, I know everyone loves that show and the comic is really powerful and stuff, like, but it's like gritty white kids. Like, you're taking something that comes from like tokusatsu. Why aren't you using the fact like that is an incredible property that is just has built-in kind of history, and you can, I don't know, I just feel like it's such a waste to lean away from that. And I also think now people love tokusatsu. Look at Spider-Man, right? Bringing up Spider-Man again, because what doesn't include Spider-Man? But like, even in Into the Spider-Verse, right, which did something different that changed who the lead was, they had a tokusatsu reference. You know, they had Leopardon from the original tokusatsu Spider-Man show. Like, there is space for this stuff to be inclusive and to be reverential. It doesn't have to be like a cash grab of like, let's cut out the original creators and then we'll make like a cool version. It's like, I don't want to see a version where somebody's wearing like a checkered shirt and they're like, oh, it's so tough to be a Power Ranger, and they don't know how to do a backflip. Like, why would I watch that? What has that got to do with it?
And it's all cut together from like very shaky cam that is obviously intercut stunt doubles with the actor.
Yeah, exactly, you know?
Yeah, it's just I worry that it's going to lack the charm of what we've come to know and love, but only time will tell. But you know what time will also tell? That Baby Yoda is back this Friday because, folks, The Mandalorian's coming to Disney Plus for season 2. Seamless transition, Dan. Nailed it. And we've seen a lot of reports and teases for this season that fan favorite characters like Ahsoka Tano, Boba Fett, and Commander Rex are joining the cast, just to name a few. So I want to touch on this briefly before we move on because we have some bigger fish to fry, but I'm curious, are you worried that they are tying the Mandalorian storyline back to existing canon too much by introducing these characters we've seen before in other mediums? Or do you think that they enhance the story by grounding it in what we know so far? Because I've come down on either side of the fence because it's cool to see certain characters like in live action for the first time, but also part of my thrill with The Mandalorian was seeing new characters, a new part of the universe we haven't seen before, and like zero Skywalkers in any direction. So, Hoai-Tran, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, before we got on camera, I talked about how I haven't seen any of the Star Wars animated shows. So I'm coming in almost completely fresh to The Mandalorian, only having seen the main saga, like Skywalker Saga films and all the other Star Wars films. And I found The Mandalorian so refreshing in how, yeah, like you said, it's an unexplored corner of the universe. And it felt like something new and unexpected. And even if there are references to, for example, the space wizards that are the Jedi, I think that it just leaves so much room for all these kind of different adventures, and that feels very in line with the Western meets Ronin genre that The Mandalorian is doing, the lone wolf and the cub type storytelling, which feels like you could just tell endless stories in that universe. But at the same time, I don't begrudge them going into the Star Wars canon because Dave Filoni, who is a major creative force in The Mandalorian and created Star Wars Rebels, I think, and and was had a hand in other animated shows like Clone Wars. He has a passion and affection for the characters he created in those shows. So I don't blame him for wanting to bring those characters to live action. And we have all the frenzied, breathless coverage of who's going to play so and so in live action. So it does lead to a lot of coverage. I can't really say as much until I see how it works like the screen and in season 2. So if it's seamless and if it doesn't feel like it's taking away and being too much of that sort of fan pandering, then I'm fine with it. But I did feel like some of that, for example, in Solo, where they like kind of make nods to the greater Star Wars canon, and they're like, oh hey, this is a character that everyone who watched these 3 animated shows will know, but it doesn't make any sense for the greater overall story. So we'll see. I don't begrudge them for now, but I'll save my judgment for later.
Yeah, as long as they don't tell us how Baby Yoda gets his last name, I won't begrudge them too much. And I hope that some of these characters are there to provide maybe some context and fill in some holes in the canon to maybe tie things back to it. But I do sincerely hope they keep charting their own course because, as you mentioned, that has been one of the most exciting parts of this series. It feels new. It reminded me why I love Star Wars, because it's this vast universe full of all these larger than life characters, and seeing a new flavor of that has been really special. Now in the chat, we have that gray area saying The Mandalorian needs as much room to breathe as possible. Introducing Ahsoka could be a cool premise, but I think the story is better served by trying to pave its own way with its own character. So thank you, my alt account, for posting that. I agree entirely. But let's move away from the Mando for a minute, and well, I guess for the rest of the show, and talk about something that I think there's been no controversy about in any way, shape, or form. I'm talking about the Snyder Cut, because holy reshoots, Batman! Zack Snyder's Justice League, which is coming to HBO Max in a 4-part miniseries, keeps getting bigger, with reported budgets of $70 million and counting, new characters being added seemingly every day. Many are wondering if this is a crisis on infinite reshoots. What's going on with this film turned miniseries? Now, most recently it was reported that Jared Leto is returning to film additional scenes as the Joker, the character he portrayed in Suicide Squad. Joe Manganiello is taking a break from playing D&D to shoot additional scenes as Deathstroke. We saw him briefly towards the end of the film, and he was at one point going to be the villain in Ben Affleck's solo Bat film, which eventually went the way of so many Thomas and Martha Waynes. So my question to the panel is, what are your thoughts on them adding in additional characters and scenes like this? Because it is going to be longer than the movie by a factor of almost 2. It's going to be 4 parts as opposed to one like one film. So what are your thoughts specifically on people like Jared Leto as Joker and Joe Manganiello as Deathstroke returning for additional scenes? Markeia, let's start with you.
Sure. Yeah, the Snyder cut. Wow. I've muted that on Twitter for years now. That particular.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
Yeah.
It can be a very vocal fan base.
Yeah. Well, it's like when I was working with DC Daily, and that kept on coming up before it was even a possibility, and now obviously it is reality, for right now. With this, I liken it to, do you remember The Abyss, which is an excellent sci-fi story that happens, underwater. And it's a great story for there's a lot of different ways that people can take from that. And then there's the director's cut of The Abyss, which I love, which is like 4 hours long. And it is a ridiculous thing to watch. But because I love The Abyss, I also enjoy the director's cut, because for me, then it's just like I get to see all around the corners of this film that I already love. Taking that feeling and then putting that on the Snyder cut. So with that, there are people that love this film. They love everything about it. I'm not one of these people. I am not in love with this film, but I respect that there are people that do. So in that case, if this reality for them has now happened, where they get to have the Snyder cut, they get to have their director's cut of this movie that they love, so that they can see around the corners and everything with it. If that's what we're doing, then fine. Do it all the way right. Go all the way, kick that volume up to 11. Make sure that Ray Fisher and Amber Heard get their scenes. Make sure they get their scenes in. If you're doing it for everybody else, you're definitely going to be doing it for Cyborg and Mira. It's like, tell the whole full story if you're going to do it. Do I believe that this was a necessary thing? No, but I don't sign that. That's not me. I'm not necessarily the demographic for this, but the demographic that they are focusing on with it is going to love it. So that's what I have to say about the Snyder cut.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, I think that was very well put. I think as well, it's interesting because, it's easy to focus on that extremely vocal fan base. But I am also, Zack Snyder originally left this project under very sort of tragic circumstances,
Very
dealing
tragic
with a personal tragedy. And so I always try to remind myself that maybe this is a bit of closure for him to be able to make sure that he got to put out the product that he wanted to at the end of the day. $70 million is insane. Anyway, you slice it for a movie that came out several years ago. It is.
And that was supposedly complete.
Yes.
Yes. Exactly. That was
problem.
Supposedly complete. I mean, you could definitely tell that certain things were Frankenstein together, but that is the nature of these things. Like, they were dealing with sort of extenuating circumstances. But I wonder, because the way this is ballooning, it almost like, it reminds me of like that episode of Parks and Recreation, for example, where Chris Pratt's Andy Dwyer is trying to make the perfect anthem, I think for either Lil Sebastian or Pawnee. And he just keeps adding to it, like a riff on the Beach Boys a little bit, where he just keeps adding more and more insane and like out of the blue, like we need a children's choir, we need an orchestra of didgeridoos, and it just feels like that to a certain degree. Like, I'm curious, do you think these reshoots can actually enhance what we got when we saw the Justice League versus what Zack Snyder intended, Rosie?
I think that Markeia puts so much stuff really, really well. I think that it is very interesting to see who gets to have $70 million to make a TV show out of their movie that didn't do well. My biggest thing about this is like, do I think it's going to make it better? For me, probably not. Like, I really did not enjoy that movie. And I went into that movie with a very open mind. I love Funny Dad Aquaman. I loved that terrible cover of Come Together Now. And it was like them, and they're like, I was like, if this is going to be like a funny dad superhero movie, and it was not for me. I can tell it was Frankenstein together. And aside from the vocal fandom part, which we'll leave out, I don't think there's anything wrong with like a director's cut of this movie. I would actually, I when people were like Snyder cut, I was like, oh, a director's cut. Like, yeah, why not? $70 million to reshoot characters who were never in this movie that's not a new cut of the movie. It's a new movie. And like, my biggest question is like, if I just start talking about the Yan cut, does that mean Warner Brothers is going to give Kathy Yan $70 million to make a Birds of Prey miniseries that is like about Black Canary or something? Because if so, then maybe I'll start doing that in a polite way. I think that's my biggest issue is like, I think it is good that any artist gets to create something in their way. Like, artistic freedom is very cool, but who gets that? Who gets to make a movie that is ostensibly, if rumors are to believe, was a flop? Like the same with, you know, we don't really know how much Justice League or Batman versus Superman cost, but they both were very expensive and they both didn't make very expensive money back that you would expect. Who gets $70 million? That's the question I have. Like, you know, I don't love it. I don't love what it represents, but in my dream world, would I love for it to be this really thing that pays off? It will never be what so many people and what so many people had to put up with, in my opinion, but it would be great if it was good. I would be really stoked if it was good, and if Ray Fisher felt like he finally got the respect and kind of the place he was meant to have, and if they did that work. You know, Joe Manchin, really fine. He's a good Deathstroke. I love the Titans Deathstroke. S.A. Morales is like 10 out of 10 casting. So, but yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to have any feelings other than like, that's interesting.
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. Like, I'm kind of just like raising an eyebrow every new headline I see, because it doesn't feel real in a certain way. It feels like a money laundering scheme at a certain point, because it started with like $30 million, which was the cost of digitally erasing Henry Cavill's mustache instead of giving us Trucker Superman. And now it is more than double that.
If we get mustache Superman, maybe it will be worth it. If they just give him his mustache back.
But you could just do that by having like some talented youth deep fake that version in, and it would look just as convincing as his horrifying grin at the beginning of the movie. So I don't know. We'll see what's going to happen there. I want to make sure we have time to move on to this last topic as well. So we're going to bid the Snyder Cut adieu until 2021, when we all watch it for 900 hours straight. Okay, so folks, let me just jump right into this. That's no moon. It's a Moon Knight, because it's specifically Oscar Isaac leaving the galaxy far, far away, reportedly, for the spandex-clad climes of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. On Monday, multiple outlets reported that Oscar Isaac is in talks to join Marvel's Moon Knight series for Disney Plus as the titular Moon Knight, Marc Spector. Now, for those who don't know, I have a full deep dive into Moon Knight's comic book backstory right here on Nerdist, but suffice to say, he's a mercenary turned vengeful avatar of an ancient Egyptian god turned TV producer turned crime fighter turned now streaming service superstar, I guess. So my question to the panel is, what are your thoughts on Oscar Isaac's casting in this role, especially in light of the fact that he seemingly didn't enjoy his time with Star Wars, so why would he want to sign up for the Marvel experience? So Hoai-Tran, let's start with you.
Well, this isn't the first time that Oscar Isaac has been in a Marvel or Marvel adjacent superhero movie. Last time he also played a comic book villain with equally Egyptian ties. And this time he won't get to be covered under prosthetics and just put his hand on a TV and say learning the entire time. So I'm assuming it's because he's a bit more of a fleshed out role than that. I love Oscar Isaac. I think he's one of our most talented working actors today. And I think that he has a chameleonic presence and also a big charismatic quality to him that makes him one of the few like potential movie stars, like the big stars of today. And I think that while he was so charming in the Star Wars saga, it didn't quite serve him as much as it could have. And here he gets to be a lead in his own superhero series and get the spotlight. So maybe that's what I'm kind of guessing is the appeal for him. He finally gets to be a lead and be as charismatic and play with so many personas, as you said, because this character, I think, has dissociative personality disorder. So he gets to not only have a superhero spandex role, but also have some chewy, dramatic weight to the role. So I think that that's like part of the appeal to him. It's got that sort of cross market appeal. And I think he just likes to have fun with characters. I honestly don't know much about Moon Knight, but it sounds very wacky from your descriptions of it and from what I read of it. So I feel like Oscar Isaac could sink his teeth into this role and have a lot of fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's definitely a lot meatier than what he was given with Poe for the most part in Star Wars, because especially if this character is in the TV series, like even if it's like only 4 episodes or something, like however long Loki's going to wind up being, you're going to get to do a lot with this in a way that you might not get to with another project. And it seems like that from outward appearances, at least, that Marvel has their house a little bit more in order than the Galaxy Far, Far Away did on the cinematic side. But I'm curious as well, like, you know, there are so many different shades of Moon Knight over the years. Like my favorite is like the meme ones that have been floating around where someone edited some panels to make it look like he's trying to chase down Dracula to get his money back. But like there is a good sense of humor to this character as well, in spite of the kind of darkness within. So I'm curious, what would you like to see from a Moon Knight series, and what does this show need to do to set itself apart from the other Marvel offerings out there? Markeia.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this. I mean, I remember like back when during my Marvel movie news days where we would just like speculate on what a Moon Knight series could be. And then like to have Oscar Isaacs now, so as a possibility, just picturing Oscar Isaacs in like a white clad tuxedo as a detective consulting with the NYPD. It's like, is that the vapors or is that just like that? More than likely, Disney Plus is probably going to grab onto the Warren Ellis run, the 2014 run, which, yeah, where it's like Moon Knight, Moon Knight, and then Mr. Knight. The thing that I'm very interested in is the rogues gallery that they have to draw from. I mean, I particularly like Black Spector, which is basically picture a character that sees Moon Knight. Okay, just real quick, Black Spector is a war veteran who comes back. His father was a washed out mayor type of a deal. And he comes back and realizes that there's no real place for him in society, which is so real. It's like, it's one of those things that, you know, Marvel Comics is really good at doing. And then he sees Moon Knight and he's like, I can freaking do that. You know, I got that down. And he does it. But he does it in the way that it's just like, oh, dude, don't do that. You know, and that's Black Spector. Yeah, kind of like the other side. I mean, he's not the big bad with Moon Knight. That's Bushman, who actually led to, sorry, I'm going down a Moon Knight hole. Okay.
Please.
So, but going back for this particular series, I mean, one of the major influences, if y'all haven't seen it, the Raid Redemption, which I recommend. Watch it if you haven't.
So good.
Yeah, but it's like having that aesthetic along with Oscar Isaacs being able to go up against whoever it is that they get for this rogue gallery, you know, to go with them. It's like you can have the humor, you can have the gritty crappiness that can happen with Moon Knight. Like it gets sad. It gets real hit because it deals with mental wellness along with being, you know, this person that needs to go out and do good, you know, do good in their own way. And then along with that, you have you know, the Egyptian god tie for all of this. I mean, who wouldn't want to be Moon Knight? Who wouldn't? And plus with this, yes, they have Oscar Isaacs in talks with this. Sorry, I'm on a roll now. They have Oscar Isaacs in talks right now, but literally because you have this dissociative identity disorder that you can have with this character, you can utilize other actors being the alter egos. We could have Ruth Negga. We could have Ruth Negga in there. That could happen. So it's like, I'm so excited that they're doing this. And I just really, really, really hope that they let it breathe. It's like, you don't need to rush this at all. The first season could literally be him trying to come to terms with the fact that, you know, he now has to follow Khonsu's directive. Like, you can literally have that in him just doing a couple of detective cases, and that's it.
Yeah, I just want to like say that Disney should actually hire Markeia to do this show, because my biggest issue with this is like, I was working in a comic when shop newer stuff was coming out, and I've read a bunch of it. The early stuff is super racist, and the mental health stuff is super problematic. So that's me being the bummer side. And also Moon Knight is like a really overtly Jewish character, so, and the Egyptian ties. So I love Oscar Isaac, and I think it could be really cool. But Markeia's idea of having 3 different personalities, you could have an Egyptian actor, you could have a Jewish actor, you could have Oscar, you could have these different personalities that still represent it. My biggest dream for this show is that they do what they did with like Man-Ape from Black Panther, who's a super problematic character, still from one of the best runs of Black Panther, and they turn it into one of the best characters from the movie with Winston Duke. You know, if they can reimagine this in the Bushmaster character, who is the biggest rogue for Moon Knight, those drawings are just so offensive when you see the original ones, like so bad. So they need to bring that mindset of reimagining the stuff that is set up there to make it fit now. And Markeia apparently has a whole plan for it. So I'm like, Disney, I got excited. I was literally sitting here like, oh, I'm gonna have to be the bummer again. And Markeia's talking about it. I'm like, hire Markeia. That's the show. That's exactly, it sums up all the because it's like,
I would write the crap out of this.
You could do it. And that's the thing. It does have space to be a show about mental health. It has a space, if you want, to actually look at colonialism and the idea of like thievery and that kind of stuff. Because I get that Oscar Isaac people have been saying he should be Indiana Jones, which I'll be very into or Indiana Jones kind of reboot. I understand how Disney probably heard that and then thought about the origins of Moon Knight, which is kind of mercenary thief, like stealing ancient artifacts. But if you want to do that story in 2021 or 2022, you need to subvert it. Nobody wants to see that story about some like cool white dude who or cool like guy who steals for a Western museum and then gets a superpower. Like, there's different ways to do it, and it's all about reimagining. And like I said, hire Markeia, because she got the plans. This is something you've been thinking about.
Yeah, I love that idea about the different actors portraying these different personalities as well, because I've seen some reports out there. They were also eyeing actors like Nick Kroll and Daveed Diggs for the role, but just all 3 of them as the different aspects of Marc Spector.
So fun.
Because just having those 2 in your brain would be phenomenal. I have to say.
Also, that's a dream pandemic show. Even if you just do Oscar playing 3 characters, or you cast all 3 characters, if you can build that show around just those 3 personalities, you can be shooting in a way that's actually safe for people going forward, and you can get that show made. So I think that might be another reason why this one's been pushed up the
especially now that they have the Mandalorian, they've done all that pioneering in terms of virtual sets. Like, they were able to film their whole 2nd season, and they're starting their 3rd season while we're still in the middle of the pandemic. So fingers crossed that they will be able to do this stuff safely, and hopefully we'll have something new to watch so the Marvel Cinematic Universe can keep on chugging along, because otherwise, what are we going to do? Only getting one offering a year. Oh my goodness. Well, that said, yeah, I'm very excited. And Kevin Feige, we'll give you Markeia's contact information after this. Thank you. I know you're in the chat right now. You watch every episode. Thanks so much for being a supporter, K-Dog. We really appreciate it. But now it's time for a little thing we like to call Nerdist News Trivia. We're done with the news for the day, so it's time for some good old-fashioned Nerdist News Trivia. Now, we here at the Nerdist News Talks Back Institute for the Trivial Arts like to connect our trivia to the barest of threads. So given that yesterday was the the 42nd anniversary of John Carpenter's Halloween hitting theaters, we're going to celebrate with some Halloween trivia. So, does my panel have a pen, pencil, or crayon, something to write with, something to write on? Fantastic. Okay, let us begin. So, what was the original title for the movie Halloween? Was it A, All Hallows Eve, B, Michael Came Home, C, The Babysitter Murders, or D, The Prowler? Which was the original title for the movie Halloween? A, All Hallows Eve, B, Michael Came Home, C, The Babysitter Murders, or D, The Prowler?
I like Babysitter Murders because it sounds like a Lifetime movie.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like the next evolution of Netflix's sprawling babysitter verse because they keep making shows with babysitter in the name.
All of those titles sound pretty good to me.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
Must be the
producer Adam
best.
cooked up some
guess.
wicked trivia
I
today.
took a guess
this
too.
this
so
would just
this
be
will
the
be fun.
best
Hopefully you can
title
read this.
out of that.
All right, let's see those
Personal.
answers, folks.
Dun, 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 dun.
I'm so sorry. The answer was, in fact, C, The Babysitter
Oh,
Murders.
no!
Oh no, I
Yeah.
thought that was
Oh,
it.
we all
I thought
got it
he
wrong.
was Babysitter.
That was the one we
What
were
were
like,
the
that
chances?
was weird.
It felt
I
too
should've just
preposterous
asked
to
you to
be
say the
true.
name.
Yeah, it felt like a
I-
Lifetime
you know
movie,
what,
like you
next
said,
time,
It
Rosie.
really does
Next
feel
time
like a
I'm
life.
just writing it out.
Yeah, just follow your heart.
I'm sure that
Yeah.
if
Alright.
if I went on my TV right now and Googled it, I bet there's a Lifetime movie called The Babysitter Murders. I would bet on it.
Oh, the babysitters on Netflix. There's 1 and 2. I recommend them both, but watch the first one first.
Oh yeah, those are so
Which one
fun.
has the murders?
both?
Triple
Oh,
feature of
shit.
the Babysitters and Babysitters Club.
Yeah, don't get them mixed up.
Shared universe. All right, question number 2. True or false, the Myers house was an abandoned home in South Pasadena that was later turned into a chiropractor's office. True or false, the Myers house was an abandoned home in South Pasadena that was later turned into a chiropractor's office. All right, let's see those answers.
Because I want it to be true.
I don't know.
The answer, well, you're in luck because it's true. The house
Yes.
has been across the
Yes.
street, and it was the Algeria Chiropractic Center for a few years, but it's currently unoccupied.
I had a feeling I didn't see too many. Every Halloween, my Twitter is just full of people who like go to the Nightmare on Elm
Yeah.
Street house. And I hadn't seen that one, so I was like, I guess maybe it did get turned into a chiropractor.
Yeah, they had
I
a
just
look,
wasn't really
You know, I
love
should have
the
said true
thought.
because it's so specific that it had to be true.
Just call me
I-
Columbo. This is-
I really love the thought of somebody like getting like their was it like happen in the same place that like
A different kind of bone crunching.
Yeah,
No, wait,
that's
that's-
how they.
wait that's I'm
It's
confused.
the spine tingle that you actually want.
There you go.
yeah, right. Hey. Hopefully they played
All
the
right.
Halloween theme whenever in there.
Just in the waiting room constantly. All right, question number 3. Michael Myers' famous mask is actually a mask of this actor that was painted white. A, Jack Nicholson, B, William Shatner, C, Marlon Brando, or D, Richard Nixon. So Michael Myers' famous mask is actually a mask of this actor that was painted white. Who is the actor? Is it A, Jack Nicholson, B, William Shatner, C, Marlon Brando, or D, Richard Nixon?
I feel like I had heard of this trivia, but I can't remember what it is. So I'm
I know the feeling.
okay.
All right, do we have
Just-
our...
Going for the scariest possible one for this.
The answer is B, William Shatner. So the production designer, Tommy Lee Wallace, bought the mask for $1.98 and then painted it white, and a horror icon was born. If you look closely, you can kind of see it, but like it's more just upsetting to think that William Shatner's like, wait, that's supposed to be my face?
That's
Come on.
like one of those things where I always remember, like when I was a kid, it shifted. It was like, it was William Shatner's mask turned inside out. So they didn't need to paint it white. Or it was William Shatner's mask and then they did something else. And that was like, that's like the one piece of trivia I never knew until the internet, whether it was real or not. That was like a peak, like, is it an urban legend? And then I was like, this
Mandela
is
effect type
great.
of thing.
Yeah.
That was one of those things that I just like absorbed through cultural osmosis long before I ever saw the movie. And I was always like, oh, you know, fun fact about this movie I've never seen.
You're like, wow, did you know?
All right. Well, speaking of did you know, Michael Myers isn't credited as Michael Myers. So what is his character credited as? Is it A, the Shadow, B, the Phantom, C, the Being, or D, the Shape? Michael Myers is not credited as Michael Myers. What is he credited as? Is it A, the Shadow, B, the Phantom, C, the Being, or D, the Shape? All right. Do we have our answers locked in?
Yeah.
Okay. That's how, I mean, that's usually how I approach trivia as well.
Yeah.
All right.
Myers is not my dude, obviously.
No, should have gone with Austin Powers, but we'll do that next time. All right. Rosie, you got it. The answer is D, the Shape.
I feel like, one, I'm a loser and this is the kind of stuff I know, but two, I feel like I've been, you know, that not the Slumdog Millionaire, that movie that you shouldn't watch, but in that, the idea is everything that happens is like, it's been leading to him knowing the answers. My Twitter feed has just been giving me these answers. I saw this hilarious argument about whether or not calling him Michael Myers or the Shape, like which one you should call it. That was like 2 days ago. People were so mad about it. It was very entertaining.
People getting mad about something trivial on Twitter doesn't sound real.
I made it up. It was just a fun anecdote.
Yeah. All right. Question number 5. True or false? Carpenter originally started the script for Halloween as a sequel to the film The Town That Dreaded Sundown. True or false? John Carpenter originally started this script for Halloween as a sequel to the film The Town That Dreaded Sundown. Yes.
I don't know it, but I like that quite. I hope it's true.
We'll find out.
This is more of a hope.
I do that every time. Anytime it's one
I keep doing the exact opposite guesses of you guys.
Well, you're in luck because it is false.
Oh,
Carpenter was a big fan. He was a big fan of Canadian slasher film Black Christmas and got permission to write a sequel from director Bob Clark, and that script turned into Halloween. So, sorry, Sundown fans.
That's really cool trivia. Now
Black Christmas is like one of the best movies ever made. So well done to him. Good choice.
Am I misremembering? Is Black Christmas the one that has Garbage Day?
Yeah, it is. And it's the one where this whole movie's actually secretly about whether or not a girl should be able to get an abortion. It's just like this super radical, funny. Yeah. They made it like,
and you know what? I enjoy the remake.
And the remake was made by women.
It gets super wacky at the end, but I appreciate it because that's kind of like that's the pulse of the original.
I'm a big fan
I'm being told now as well that the Garbage Day thing is Silent Night, Deadly Night too. Another Christmas themed horror film.
That was one of the first horror movies that I saw when I was 8. Silent Night, Deadly Night. That's how I knew the truth about Santa Claus.
Oh, what a way to find out. Oh my goodness.
Santa's not real, and also maybe he's a murderer. In a really grimy movie that is like all those Silent Night, Deadly movies. They're barely horror movies. They're like horrible neo-noir crime movies of just like the most depressing. I love them. They're so good. I would have bet money on Garbage Day. I guess so many prank calls with no one saying anything, so little time.
Look, if you want a depressing Christmas movie that's also about crime, just watch Bad Santa. I mean, it's right there.
Oh, yeah. And it's got a sequel.
All right.
Depressing for different reasons.
Yeah, definitely different reasons.
Yes. All right, question number 6. Michael Myers is the villain of every Halloween sequel except for one. So what film does he not appear in? Is it A, Halloween 4, B, Halloween 3, C, Halloween Resurrection, or D, Halloween H2O? So which movie is Michael Myers not the villain of? Is it A, Halloween 4, B, Halloween 3, C, Halloween Resurrection, or D, Halloween H2O?
Man, I watched Halloween H2O yesterday.
Can you say the ones after the first one again?
Yes.
I'm not going to do A, B, C, D again. That's basically what this is.
So B is Halloween 3, C is Halloween Resurrection, and D is Halloween H2O.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm right. I haven't seen all the Halloween movies, unfortunately.
Dude, Halloween H2O, I watched it yesterday. It's really funny. It's just like a teen private school drama, and Michael Myers is in it for like 5 minutes. But it's from 1998, so Josh Hartnett has like his really bad faculty haircut, so it's
Oh
like
my
very
gosh.
nostalgic. I loved it. I thought it was a lot of fun, and it's really, the canon is just baffling. Eric actually at Nerdist just wrote a really good theory about how you can make the canon make sense, because the Halloween canon makes no sense. Everyone's dying, everyone's coming back to life, like peak horror movie stuff.
Oh my gosh. All right, let's see those answers, folks. The answer is in fact B, Halloween 3, Season of the Vivitch. It's about a divorced doctor who stumbles on a malicious plot to turn children into piles of bugs by using Halloween masks that have pieces of Stonehenge implanted in them by an evil business warlock. Also, there's androids. So, you know, just the makings of a classic Halloween jaunt.
Classic. And the masks are just so iconic. The whole thing is just, it's wild.
Yeah, and then plus the fourth one literally has the revenge of
Michael Myers. They were like, just so you know, they were like, he's back. He's back.
He promised he's back
Mike
now.
Myers, not my dude, but I knew that.
You knew where he wasn't in it because you don't like him. You were like, this one I remember.
I'm a Jason, not a Mike Myers.
Yeah, Jason and Freddy. I mean,
yeah. Although
I'm sure you watched the Freddy versus Jason
Mike
movies.
Myers, because he's not a dumb stabber, you know. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, Michael Myers, he is important because he is the precursor to a Jason, a never-ending supernatural death machine.
Yeah, somehow immortal in some way.
Yeah, nobody knows why. And if you try and add it, it's ridiculous. It's like brought back to life by a psychic with an electric lightning bolt. That's actually real. That happened. Yeah, he's in space. I love Jason X. Jason X, modern classic, and Freddy versus Jason. Good stuff.
All right, let's get into some Michael Myers lore on this question, number 7.
Perfect.
After Michael Myers commits his first murders as a child, he's found by his parents wearing what Halloween costume? A, Darth Vader, B, a clown, C, a ghost, or D, Spider-Man. So after Michael Myers commits his first murders as a child, he's found by his parents wearing what Halloween costume? Is it A, Darth Vader, B, a clown, C, a ghost, or D, Spider-Man?
I wish it was. I'm not going to say that, but I have one that I wish it was, that it wasn't.
Yeah.
I know what I want it to be, so that's what I'm writing.
Always a good way to go.
Yeah.
Yes, just a self-actualization.
Did they change it in the reboot? I feel like they had a different one in the reboot than in the original.
More than likely.
Yeah.
Rob Zombie.
Now I'm confused over which one it is. Oh,
that and they added more aliens. And he stabs first.
He stabs first. That was an important change.
Yes, Mike Clunky was his new name. So he really brought it full circle. All right, let's see those answers, folks.
I wish it was Spider-Man, but it was B, a clown.
It was B, a clown.
It was B, a clown. Although, Markeia, I do appreciate your spooky answer of ghost.
because I didn't want it to be a clown.
No one wants it to be a clown. That's how you wind up being a supernatural murderer.
Yeah, I feel like Ghost would have been very cool.
Why do we do this to ourselves? Why is it clowns and teeth and things coming in and out of eyes? A little Michael Myers in like a chic ghost outfit would have just been very cool. I'm here for that.
Just with an oversized knife.
Markeia, add that to your Moon Knight. Just rewrite the retcon it. Have them watching a version of Halloween where he's a ghost.
All right. So the Halloween franchise has had many sequels, most of them middling to not great. But which one? Yes. Well, look, I didn't write the question. Take that up with Adam. Which one of these actors has never been in a Halloween sequel? Is it A, Paul Rudd, B, Busta Rhymes, C, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, or D, Adam Scott? So which of these actors has never been in a Halloween sequel? Is it A, Paul Rudd, B, Busta Rhymes, C, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, or D, Adam Scott?
Well, I know two of them, but I don't know two of them. So it's like a...
I know, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty positive about one, but the others I'm not so sure about. It's fine. Figure it out.
I'm gonna write who I hope wasn't.
Yeah, you're like, I like this person enough that I hope they didn't make that career mistake.
Who knows? Maybe they had a lovely time.
Yeah, I'll whatchamacallit. I guess I'll have to start watching the Halloween sequels as opposed to just knowing a couple of things about the original and watching that like a decade ago.
If you
I hear
want
ya,
some,
I hear
they're
ya.
good nostalgic like 90s and zeros trash. There's the one of them, they're making a reality TV show in the old Myers place, and it is like incredible. In H2O, LL Cool J, who's not part of this question, is written in, and his sole role is a security guard who writes erotic fiction. So most of the time, he's just on the phone reading erotic fiction that he's
I
written.
think I remember this. I think I watched a scene
It's
from this.
actually
What is
incredible.
that with LL Cool
LL
J?
Cool
then?
J
Because
reading
think about
erotica.
Deep Blue Sea, where he's like in the
Mhm.
camera, be like, "Here's how you make the perfect omelet." This non sequitur.
All right. Do we have our answers locked in?
Yeah.
Let's see them.
I'm just because he was in Hellraiser, I'm going for Adam Scott.
You are correct. It is Adam Scott.
I thought Adam Scott was in.
That would have been.
He's
guess
in
not.
he's
Who
in
was Paul
Hellraiser
Rudd?
Bloodline, which Rosie brought up earlier in the episode, and I was like, "Uh-oh, I wonder if they're gonna remember." But-
It would have been too powerful to have been in two bad horror
Yeah,
sequels. That's
I
too
knew Busta Rhymes was in it. I knew that
Yeah.
for a fact.
He's in the
And,
reality
Joseph
TV
Gordon-Levitt's in everything. So it was
He's
like
in
a 50-50 for me if it was Adam Scott
Yeah.
or Paul Rudd. Who was
Yeah,
Paul
that's the
Rudd?
thing.
in it?
Which one is Paul Rudd in?
I'm not sure off the top of my head. He was in Halloween 4, I'm being told from
Oh.
producer Adam.
Interesting.
the
Very
one I
excited.
did watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah,
to
he's the guy that says, "Oh no, it's Michael Myers' revenge," directly to the camera.
trademark. Yeah,
Yes.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he is the first kill in Halloween H2O, and he's a sassy kid who's been kicked out of school, and he gets killed with an ice skate to the face.
This doesn't surprise
Oh,
me.
nice.
Yeah. It's
That's a good
Okay.
death.
They do a lot
I'm
of
being told now
invention.
that producer Adam lied to me right to my face. It's actually Halloween 5, and he plays Tommy Doyle.
Oh,
Oh,
so they bring him back as a,
Halloween
okay.
5.
So that's who Paul
Awesome.
Rudd plays. Yes.
Yeah. What's okay, cool.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think I missed that
moving
one.
on from that one. Question number 9. We're almost done, folks. True or false? Before making Halloween, John Carpenter, production designer Tommy Lee Wallace, and Michael Myers actor Nick Castle were in a rock band together. True or false? Before making Halloween, John Carpenter, production designer Tommy Lee Wallace, and Michael Myers actor Nick Castle were all in a rock band together.
I'm doing a self-actualization answer on this one, guys.
yeah. This is also one like I think it's true. It sounds great.
Oh, I know what I want to write, but then I know what I want to be true. You know what? Screw it.
I'm willing it to existence.
Yeah.
If all
Yes.
three of us will
Will it
maybe
into
it'll be
existence.
true.
Well, you're in luck because it's true. Their band was called the Coupe de
Yes!
Villes, and
The
they have an
power we
excellent
have.
music video for Big Trouble in Little China. So there you go.
Incredible.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's
Also,
fun
side
facts.
note,
Good on them.
reminds me that one of my favorite video game composers, Nobuo Uematsu, who did the Final Fantasy franchise for many iterations, has a rock band called the Black Mages, which you should also check out.
Okay, that's good.
Oh, I
But
need to check
moving
that
right
out.
along, our
I
final
had
question.
his soundtrack for the Final Fantasy games.
Yeah.
They're so good. They're so good. They're
So
all on
good.
Spotify too, so you can stream them to your heart's content.
Wow.
So question number 10, the fictional town of Haddonfield is in which state? Is it A, New Jersey, B, Massachusetts, C, Illinois, or D, Maine? So the fictional town of Haddonfield is in which state? A, New Jersey, B, Massachusetts, C, Illinois, or D, Maine? Now, this is a trick question to a certain degree.
Yeah, because I can't
know.
confuse this.
feel like I
with,
might get it wrong, but we'll
with
see.
my stabby guy that I enjoy.
All right, let's see those answers. The answer is in fact C, Illinois.
Mm.
There is,
Yeah!
so Haddonfield in the movie is named after the real city of Haddonfield, New Jersey, where producer and co-writer Deborah Hill hails from.
Trick.
That's
And then in
why I was
parentheses,
like,
Adam
why
wrote
do I
Go
want to say New
Birds.
Jersey?
Because it's real, and you're just like, I've heard that before.
Yeah.
So a friend of mine from college is from Haddonfield, the real one though. All right, so our supercomputer is now tabulating the votes. I'm being told the Silver Shamrock Corporation has announced a winner, and Rosie, you are the winner of this Halloween trivia. Congratulations.
First time ever that I won a trivia. Thank you.
I
I'd like
mean,
to
as
thank
the
my amazing panelists.
I feel like
I took the spirit of Pinhead and you will never see me again because I sold my soul to win this trivia.
Honestly, worth it. It's time for our 30-second soapbox, your chance to get whatever's off your chest, talk about anything you want. So Rosie, as our newly crowned Hallow Queen, you are up first. What do you have for us?
I didn't prepare for this, so I am going to say, turn on that clock, and I'm going to tell Disney, hire Markeia to write Moon Knight. That I was seriously worried about that show. But I love all of her ideas. I think this is very cool. I think these places have already proven to be a hotspot for like people who are writing TV in a new framework and a new space. Kevin Feige would do a good deal to do that. And yeah, hire Markeia to write Moon Knight because I would then watch it. And I'll probably have to write about it anyway. So make it something I actually want to enjoy and don't have to be ragging on all the time.
All right, Kevin, I know you're in the chat still, so you heard it here second. You already heard it here first, but now you've heard it twice, and a third time will make it legally binding. So hire Markeia to write Moon Knight. Anyway, yes, I will just, exactly. Well, my alt account is there to float the idea in chat as well, but the real Kev Feige 420 is my third alt, but he's not the one that's in chat. Okay, moving right along, Markeia, you're up next. What do you have for us?
I will say that Rosie, you will get all the exclusives if I am ever on a Moon Knight project, which that would be so incredible for so many reasons. But I guess I'm just going to reiterate what I said at the top of all of this. Watch Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight, because it is literally everything that you would want in a horror movie. Let's say that you're more of a Hostel type person where you're just like, oh, I like slashers, I like Saw, Jigsaw, is the ish. Then it's like, yes, you're going to love Demon Knight. Let's say that you really loved The Nun and you're like, oh yeah, because it's a really good extension of, the Insidious universe and da 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 da. And I'm like, oh, okay, great, cool. You're going to love Demon Knight, which predates this and does it better. I can't say it enough. And follow me on social media. Let's talk horror.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And last but not least, Hoai-Tran, what do you have for us?
Well, you mentioned this in my intro, but I recently launched a podcast called Checking Through Time and Space, which is a watch podcast for Star Trek and Doctor Who from the viewpoints of a Doctor Who fan and a Star Trek fan who are trying to introduce the other to their favorite sci-fi shows. I am the Doctor Who fan. I am introducing Doctor Who to my co-host, Jacob Hall, who is a major Star Trek fan. And each episode we talk about an episode of Star Trek and Doctor Who. And we're going through Star Trek, the original series right now, as well as Doctor Who, the modern revival. And we're just going to make our way through all the shows, including all the new Star Trek shows and going back to classic Who. So we're in it for the long haul. And if you're a fan of either of those shows, check us out on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, all the podcasting apps.
Fantastic. I love that concept for a podcast as well, both the expertise and the sort of newcomer point of view for both those classic shows. So fantastic. Definitely going to check it out. Well, folks, thank you so much to my panel. Thank you to everyone who's tuning in. That's it for today's episode of Nerdist News Talks Back. I really appreciate everyone taking the time. And also make sure you check out today's episode of Nerdist Now, because it's the conclusion of our two-part docuseries on the rise of queer wrestling. If you haven't seen it yet, highly recommend you give it a watch. They did a fantastic job with this. And with that said, we'll see you back here next Monday for a brand new episode of Nerdist News Talks Back at 2 p.m. Pacific, live on Nerdist YouTube channel and Geek and Sundry's Twitch channel. But until then, stay safe, be healthy, and have a great day. Bye-bye.